Actually, Japanese people do not care at all about how foreigners use chopsticks or the exact angle of their bows. But the kimono collar, that is one thing you must absolutely never get wrong. Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're going to map out the exact boundary between the manners you really need to be careful about when traveling in Japan and the everyday things you honestly don't need to worry about at all. Let's dive in.
To start separating fact from fiction, we really need to look at where all this travel stress comes from in the first place. You've probably heard that bowing in Japan is this highly nuanced art form, right? Like specific degrees of inclination for different social hierarchies. And sure, while that's totally true in a strict corporate boardroom, holding on to that expectation as a tourist is just going to ruin your vacation.
Picture this. You're standing outside a beautiful, authentic ramen shop in Tokyo, just sweating over your phone as you scroll through endless Reddit threads about Japan travel tips. You're completely paralyzed by this myth that locals are hyper-observing critics, silently judging your every move. It's a lot of pressure. And look, this anxiety comes from Japan's well-earned global reputation as a highly polite society. But the reality? It creates a mountain of unnecessary panic. You end up too stressed to actually enjoy the incredible culture you traveled so far to experience. So, move into the surprising truth about what you can stop worrying about. Let's clear the air on the specific behaviors you can immediately cross off your stress list. Okay, so your awkward chopstick grip? Totally fine. A shallow, quick bow at the convenience store? Not a problem at all. Stumbling through broken Japanese phrases you learned on the flight over? Completely okay. What locals actually see when you do these things isn't failure. They see the simple, heartwarming fact that you're trying. Whether you're clumsily dropping a piece of sushi or struggling to ask for directions, your effort is warmly welcomed. It's the intent that matters to them, not the flawless execution.
Just think about it from their perspective for a second. Japanese people have their own insecurities when they travel abroad. Many locals feel deeply anxious about using Western knives and forks perfectly at formal dinners. Or they worry constantly about their own imperfect English when traveling to places like the US or Europe. Because of this shared human experience, there's a deep sense of mutual tolerance. They know exactly how intimidating it is to navigate a foreign culture, so they're genuinely thrilled you're there giving it your best shot.
Let's move on to the truth about chopsticks and the real taboos. If a bit of awkwardness is totally fine, what actually crosses the line into rude behavior?
Well, there's a really distinct line between a simple, innocent mistake and a genuine cultural offense. Dropping a bit of food or holding your rice bowl weirdly? Totally fine. Even locals slip up sometimes. But actions like tatebashi and hashibashi? That's where you hit a hard wall of psychological resistance. These aren't just minor etiquette slips, they're actions that trigger a deeply uncomfortable visceral reaction from the people around you.
The crucial thing here is understanding exactly why these are taboo. Tatebashi is sticking your chopsticks perfectly upright into a bowl of rice. Hashibashi is passing food directly from your chopsticks to someone else's. And here's the kicker. These have absolutely nothing to do with fancy dining etiquette. They are directly tied to traditional Buddhist funerals. During a bone-gathering ceremony after a cremation, family members pass the cremated bones of their loved one from chopstick to chopstick. And sticking chopsticks upright in rice, that's an offering made specifically for the dead. Doing either of these at a fun, lively dinner basically brings the morbid atmosphere of a funeral to the table. It evokes a massive sense of bad luck.
Now, let's talk about the fatal kimono mistake regarding collar placement. Dining aside, there's one major mistake you can make before you even leave your hotel room. If you decide to try on traditional Japanese clothing, like a gorgeous kimono or a casual summer yukata, the rule of thumb for the collar is literally non-negotiable. Now, modern Japanese people playfully mix casual styles all the time, like wearing sneakers with a kimono or tying the obi belt loosely. But the collar must always be right side tucked against your body with the left side crossed over it. Crossing it the other way, left over right, is a massive cultural shock known as hidarimai. So, why the visceral reaction to a simple fold of fabric? Well, just like the chopstick taboos, left over right is exclusively how the deceased are dressed for their funeral. In Japanese culture, the world of the dead is often seen as a complete reversal of the world of the living. By reversing that collar, you're symbolically dressing yourself as a corpse. No joke. It carries an incredibly heavy association with death and bad luck, which is why it's the singular fashion mistake you absolutely have to avoid. Just remember, left collar on top for the living.
Moving on to regional and generational nuance. Let's see how these rules shift depending on your environment, because context is literally everything when you're traveling.
The vibe of where you are heavily dictates what's expected of you. Cosmopolitan cities like Tokyo and Osaka, they're swirling vortexes of international culture. They heavily embrace casual tourist behavior and are incredibly used to visitors from all over the globe making minor missteps. But if you venture out into the quiet countryside, maybe staying at a traditional ryokan inn in the mountains, that community will naturally have slightly more conservative expectations. Paying a bit more attention to your volume, your manners, and your dress goes a remarkably long way in those traditional spaces.
You'll also notice a stark generational divide here. Younger people in Japan are extremely forgiving, globally connected, and super casual about modern manners. Meanwhile, older generations naturally place a higher, more protective value on traditional etiquette. But actually, it's really important to know this doesn't mean older folks are constantly judging you. In fact, older generations are often the warmest, most patient teachers if you just show a genuine, humble interest in learning about their culture.
Now, regarding tourist sites, the context of your location strictly dictates the rules. When you're visiting sacred spaces like shrines and temples, remember these are active places of worship, not just cool backdrops for your photos. Ignoring a no photography sign or talking loudly will immediately signal a profound lack of respect. These rules aren't flexible suggestions, guys. If a sign says no photos, it means no photos. Keeping your voice down, respecting the physical space, and just observing how the locals act will keep you in everyone's good graces.
Okay, so what is the absolute must-care list? Let's distill all of this down into your essential etiquette survival guide. If you only take away one thing from this explainer, memorize this definitive list of absolutes. Number 1, always wear the left collar on top for kimonos. Number 2, never stick your chopsticks upright in rice. 3, never pass food chopstick to chopstick. 4, always cover your tattoos when entering public onsens or pools, since tattoos still carry strict historical associations with organized crime in Japan. 5, never use a loud voice or take phone calls on public trains. It completely disrupts the shared harmony of the commute. And 6, always respect the silence and photography bans at sacred shrines.
To wrap up our survival guide here, just look at this boundary. Ditch your anxiety about your chopstick grip, the exact angle of your bow, or your language skills. The locals absolutely love that you're just trying. Simply focus your energy on respecting the non-negotiable cultural boundaries we've outlined. Keep the funeral traditions away from the dinner table, don't dress like a ghost, cover your ink at the bathhouse, keep it to a whisper on the train, and revere the temples. That's the whole shebang.
Japanese people do not expect perfection from you in the slightest. They genuinely just want to welcome you to their home. So leave that excessive anxiety at the departure gate, remember the core taboos, and embrace the pure joy of discovering an incredible culture. Rather than being paralyzed by perfectionism, will you trust in Japan's welcoming spirit and enjoy your travels freely? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and have an absolutely amazing trip.